Is excessive running predictive of degenerative hip disease? Controlled study of former elite athletes by Motti et al., 1989. Past research by Powell and Paffenberger, 1985, states that regular exercise brings several possible health benefits, such as improved fitness, decreased cardiovascular disease, and emotional well-being. Radin, Paul, and Rose, 1972, hypothesized that habitual running might accelerate degenerative disease in weight-bearing joints. Klunder, Rudd, and Hansen, 1980, found that osteoarthritis of the hip was more common in retired football players who played regularly for more than 2 decades. And Lane et al., 1986, conducted a cross-sectional study and failed to identify any significant association between habitual running and premature degenerative disease of the hip. The purpose of the current longitudinal study was to determine the effects of long-distance running on the state of the hips later in life. 3 groups of participants were compared in this study. One group consisted of 27 long-distance runners of elite standing who, in 1973, when the study began, ran an average of 97 kilometers a week. That is a little over 60 miles. The second group consisted of 9 bobsleigh riders who trained more using conditioning exercises and strength training and only running an average of 12 kilometers per week. The third group consisted of 23 controls. They were healthy, untrained men. Instruments used in this study consisted of a questionnaire on exercise habits, history of sports injuries, and medical history, a rheumatological examination of the legs, looking for arthritis of the joints of the legs, and an X-ray of the hip. Each X-ray was scored for space narrowing, subchondral sclerosis, and osteophyte formation. These scores combined to form a radiological index of degenerative hip disease. There were several results obtained from this study, including external hip rotation was significantly reduced in runners and bobsleigh riders as compared with controls. Subchondral sclerosis and osteophyte formation were significantly more prevalent in runners than in controls and bobsleigh riders. Runners had the thinnest cartilage in the hip joint, and radiological index of degenerative hip disease was significantly higher in runners. The discussion concluded that a history of regular, vigorous, and high-mileage long-distance running was found to be a predictor in degenerative. Limitations of the current study consisted of not having X-rays taken at baseline. This kept researchers from comparing the hip joint at the beginning and end of the study. Another limitation was that the 2 groups used as controls did not match perfectly with the groups of runners. No information was available for prevalence of osteoarthritis of the hip in the Swiss population as a whole. This would be interesting to know, to be able to compare the prevalence of hip problems with runners as compared to the national average. There was also a weak association found between radiological signs and reported symptoms. Thank you for your time.